I've been thinking of like what to do for an intro for like 10 minutes now. I'm wasting time. I got nothing. I'm just gonna show you these cute pillows I got for Christmas. Introverted, but willing to discuss books. Oh, what's that, girl? It's a book nerd, girl. What is up, you guys? It's me, your girl, your Casey. How you doing? I hope your Christmas was fine, spectacular, holly jolly, all that cool stuff. I sat in this bed and did nothing all Christmas. It was the best day of my whole life. But also, this month's reading has been very good. Through October, November, I was going through a big reading slump because two reasons. One, I was super obsessed with reading webtoons. W's and R's, those are so hard to pronounce. I was super obsessed with reading webtoons during those months. And also, the one book I did manage to read, Better Together, sucked all the life out of me, and I died for 2 months, but I somehow spitefully came back from the grave. Just to rant more about more books. Merry Christmas. This is my gift to society. I had like a little mixed bag reading month in December. It was fine. There was one really good book. I DNF'd one book, even though I was like 80% almost done with it. I also read a thriller that probably shouldn't exist because it didn't do anything, like it didn't accomplish anything, and I'll talk about that. I read 5 books this month. Let's spill the tea, but not on any books, because that would make me a monster. I love the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, and I want to reread it, but I'm also putting off rereading it because I spilled some hummus all over the first book, and I know if I open up the pages, I'm going to see all those hummus stains, and I'm going to cry again. Are any of you like that? Like you spill one little thing on your book, a drop of tea, maybe a splatter of ketchup, and you're like, well, time to get the new book. Or is that just me and my privileged self? Anyways, my DNF for this month was A Shadow of What Was Lost, or The Shadow of What Was Lost. All I know is someone like Peter Pan lost their dang shadow. How they did that, I don't know how. It's literally attached to you. It can't fly away. Shadow of What Was Lost. It's not complicated. It's actually very simple, but a lot of simple things mashed together does get kind of complicated. This is a high fantasy series about our main guy, Davian. My brain kept reading his name as Damien in the book, so if I call him Damien, oh well. Damien's like in my top 3 dude names. My number 1 dude name is Nathaniel, number 2 was Percy, then Damien. Yes, Percy from Percy Jackson's, I'm simple like that. But our boy Davian, he exists in this world where certain people can harness and use this power called essence. What is essence? Well, it took the book forever to explain what it is, and I almost quit several times because I didn't know what essence was. But essence is basically this energy inside of you that you can push out of you and do crazy stuff with. It's a kind of fill-in-the-blank magic system. Oh, because essence exists, I can do this without any reason. Davian goes to this school, this academy of sorts, to learn how to use essence, but there's one big problem with him. He can't use essence. He's a failure in every way, just like me. Except he keeps trying. He doesn't just sit in his bed all day like I do. But that doesn't deter our main protagonist. Though he is a personality-less entity, he's resolute. He's determined to learn how to use essence. Even though in this world where essence users are, hated, killed, mocked, branded, mutilated, openly mocked on the streets. In this world that went to war to end the reign of the essence users, they still allow the essence users that they warred with and enslaved to go to an academy to learn how to do essence, which seems dumb. You're training your enemies. Not only that, there's a problem with Davian because he's trying to learn how to use essence, but he has 0 ability. Well, you'd think this is a great thing, because if he doesn't learn how to use essence, society won't want to kill him. He'll be a normal person. No, because in this academy, the gifted youngsters who can use essence, they have to go through these trials, which we did not get to see because of events that happened in the book. If the youngsters fail their trials, they get this crazy black thing pressed to their head, and it sucks all their essence magic out of them, and it turns them into things called shadows, which are just these black-veined people with no essence abilities. They're normal people now, just with black veins. So you'd think people would be cool with them. No, they're treated worse than the gifted, which makes no sense. And if you have, in this world, the ability to take magic from the gifted people who you hate and went to war with, Why not do the black stone thing on everyone who has gifted abilities? None of the conflict in this book needed to happen. Davian obviously does not want to become a shadow. He wants to learn his gifted abilities. He cannot. He is joined by his best friend, and this other girl. She had no personality. I'm gonna call her Addie, because I know her name started with an A. Addie and they're great. They're doing fine. They're the stars of the academy. However, something crazy happens, and Davian and they have to book it out of the academy, which causes this whole chain of events. They abandon Addie, and unbeknownst to them, they accidentally abandon her to a horrible fate. So while the two dudes go off on this journey to return a certain item to a certain individual who they don't know, Addie's on this journey to find out what the heck happened to her and who's done all these horrible things that happened to the academy as soon as the two boys left. It's a lot of storytelling. It's a lot of detail packed into some really bland settings. My main beef of it is the characters and their lack of reaction to anything, and how they're all basically blank slates and stereotypes. Not stereotypes, like caricatures. Is the energetic, wisecracking best friend. Addie, the main girl character, is the supportive, smart, female in the main protagonist triangle. She's the Hermione of the group. And our main guy, Davian, he's just heroic, that's it. They all just have like one certain personality trait, and that's it. These characters would also go through a ton of horrible circumstances, like mass murders, with nary a twitch on their face. Like, they do this every day, but they don't, because they're so stupid and they don't know what they're doing. I mentioned before that it took forever. Like, I don't know the certain page count where they finally explained what essence was, because I was reading an ebook version. And this book on paper is like 800 pages, but my ebook doubled that to almost 1,600 pages. So I don't know what percentage I was at when they finally explained what essence is, and it was just very basic. It wasn't a really innovative magic system to me. Just, we have this energy inside of us and we just make cool stuff happen around us with it. And that just kind of ties in with me, like the confusing world building. I think it was just trying to explain way too much in a really bad way. I'm thinking about this now. I think it was trying to be like Way of Kings, which has a lot of stuff packed into it. It has like 3 prologues, but this one did not pull it off as well. The prologue in this book was actually pretty dope. I'm like, wow, okay, we got a shadowy figure, okay. I love shadowy figures, 10 out of 10. There's also a ton of characters to keep track in this book. Somehow, even though I cannot name any of them besides the 2 main dude characters, I was able to keep track of who was who and understand what their role was in the situation. Oh, and Caden. Caden was the only person I liked in this book, and he did not talk much. And that also reminds me, like, this again ties into like their poor personalities, because the book would be like, okay, we're in Davian's point of view, and Davian looks behind him at Caden, and Davian's thinking, oh, Caden, he doesn't talk much, but I always like appreciate his company. Instead of saying that, telling us that, you could show us Davian and Caden just sitting around a campfire, Davian awkwardly trying to start up conversation with Caden, and Caden just like, awkwardly shrugging like, yeah, okay. And it builds up like Davian managed like to tell a joke and get Caden like crack a smile or something. Stuff like that. In the middle, my least favorite plot device happens, and I hated it. I just hate this whole thing in general. If you don't want to know what it is, look away from the screen. I'm going to put it on the screen right here. This is my least favorite thing to see in books. I've read only one book who did it right. It was by Blake Crouch. Okay, now it's gone. You can look at the screen again. And though I perfectly understood how it happened in the magic system of this world, it always just makes things so needlessly complicated. This was a library book for me, and I only had like 2 days left to read, and I was at 80%, and I was like, oh, I know I could finish this book in 2 more days at 80%, but I was like, do I want to? It was so exposition-y, and I didn't have any interest in it anymore. I was only interested in Caden's backstory, the mystery of him, because our guy Caden, he's like, people say he murdered an entire village, and we found him like in the back of a police wagon, whatever it's called in the Middle Ages when you throw a criminal into a wagon, like in Shrek 4, like that kind of wagon. And did he kill all those people? Did he not? Because Caden has no memories. He has amnesia. Convenient. I was interested to learn about him, but that was the only thing keeping me in the book, and I just didn't want to stick around anymore. It wasn't enough. Next up, we have a thriller. I did a review about this, and the other thriller I'm going to talk about next. It's called Such a Quiet Place. This is about a neighborhood that is way too involved in each other's business. They have these security cameras all over their houses. And that's good. Safety first. That's great. However, one of the couples who live in the house in the neighborhood, they died one night. Like, they were found dead in their bed with their car running in the closed garage. So they died of carbon monoxide. But who leaves their car running in the garage? So everybody's like, they were murdered. Even the police were like, this had to be a homicide. And the neighbors get together and they look through their security footage and they manage to piece together, hey, we think our neighbor Ruby killed the couple. She walks their dog, so she has the house keys, so it had to be her. So Ruby goes to jail. However, because that evidence was grossly mishandled by the neighbors, the police, she spends 14 months in jail, but then she gets let go and she comes back to the neighborhood and now she's out to get everyone, which I wholly support. I really like thrillers that are based around neighbors, neighborhood secrets. I like the domestic kind. However, this one, it was a very good example on how to do that concept badly. Because when you have a neighborhood themed thriller, you have a lot of characters and it's hard to give all of them a personality or make you care about all of them. Because you have to introduce all of these people, make us like them, but also one of them has to be the killer. So you have to make sure we can see if they have a motive. This book did not do that. The first bad thing about this book was the main character. I think her name was Harper. Harper is literally just a pair of binoculars. She's nothing. We never get an opinion from her. We are literally just staring through her eyes at the situation around us. I think so far she's the most blank slate out of the blank slates I've read in books. There's literally nothing to talk about with her. The neighbors around us, who are shocked and alarmed by Ruby's return because they still wholly believe that she killed that couple, even though Ruby is now set off to find evidence proving that she's innocent. We see more personality with them and what they care about, but it's still not a lot. And for our villain, just watching these characters live their daily life, it wasn't enough to give them the character they needed to justify why they did these horrible things. There was one thing that I really liked about this book, and it was about the whole carbon monoxide situation when you read further into it. But other than that, which ties into the premise, the setup of the couple has died in their house thing, there was really nothing else unique about it. I think the villain's motivation for doing what they did was a stretch and didn't make sense at all. It was a big leap in logic. There were no characters to get attached to, and it just wasn't as good as the other thriller I read this month, The Therapist by B.A. Paris. This has a pretty similar concept as Such a Quiet Place. The Therapist is about this, let's see, she's a major extrovert, but right now she's in a situation where she's living at home alone, and she wants to get out and explore more, but she's also very comfortable where she's at. She loves her cottage, but she also loves the guy she's dating. Her boyfriend invites her to come, move in with him. He just got this swanky new house in this beautiful, secure neighborhood. And our main character girl, she's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. So she gets there, she throws this whole shenanigan. What's that called? A party? I know it starts with an S. What am I thinking about? A soiree? Never mind. Okay, she throws a party. She invites all the neighbors over so she can get to know them better. And she learns, because of her neighbors, that the house that she's living in, that her boyfriend purchased, the last person who lived there before she and her boyfriend was a therapist. And this therapist was brutally murdered in the very room they're sleeping in by her husband, who killed himself after the police found out. And our main character's boyfriend did not tell her about any of this because he was afraid she wouldn't want to live there, and it was at a really good price. So, starting this relationship out good, our main character girl is horrified that her boyfriend basically tricked her to live in this horrible house. She's also doubly horrified that the neighbors think that she knew about the murder the whole time and was just callous enough to live in the house anyways. But she's morbidly intrigued by this murder. She digs deeper into it. And because of her own past connections to her sister who died tragically at such a young age, and the similarities between her dead sister and now the dead therapist, she gets really attached to the dead therapist. And she wants to know more and more because the more she's digging into the case, it doesn't seem like her husband killed her. So our main character girl wants to know what's up. This one was really good at giving our main protagonist and all her neighbors personalities. I loved them. My favorite character was the psychiatrist, I think, who lived across the street, and he was always just like staring out of his window. So you're thinking he's the creepy guy, the murderer, but he's just like, I'm a psychiatrist. I study people. I like looking out my window. It's a good thriller. It's not a spooky thriller. There's really no suspense. Like the most suspenseful moments before, 30 pages towards the end of the book. It's just the typical, oh, I heard a creaking floorboard. I think there's someone in my house. Go get the bat. And personally, that doesn't excite me. That doesn't scare me. You know what scene did scare me? In Riley Sager's Lock Every Door, when like the dumbwaiter, is that what it's called? It's like moving by itself. You can hear the creaking rope and stuff. That was scary because it reminded me of that Goosebumps episode where the kid who loved ice cream fell down the dumbwaiter and the kid was like, yeah, you could see his brains mixed in with the strawberry ice cream. That's scary. Goosebumps was better than the therapist at making things scary. I personally guessed the killer pretty early. It's not overtly obvious. If you just pay attention, you'll guess it. But there was another twist towards the end of the book that I did not see coming, and I feel stupid for not seeing coming. Not seeing coming. Not saw came. That's not grammar. Anyways, there's another good twist at the end of the book. There's also another motive slid into the killer's motivations, which kind of came out of nowhere, but also didn't. It's a fetish, which I'm like, okay, I know people have died from I meant foot fetishes. Food fetish. I heard about this killer who went around killing girls because they all wore like white sneakers. And that turned the guy on for some reason. People are weird. But yeah, there was this fetish in this book that I'm like, I'm not mad it's here. But why is it here? Like, it's not offending me. But is it doing anything for the plot? I'm tired of talking about this. Anyways, I gave it a 4. It was nice. Not scary, but good for characters. I liked it. Next up, we have another thriller. And I'm kind of excited about this, even though it was like only a 3 and it wasn't that good anyways. But it was like the first audiobook I listened to in like 5 years. And so the reason I've stayed away from audiobooks for so long is because I have really poor like listening comprehension skills. Like you could talk to me and I would hear you, but I wouldn't understand a thing you're saying. Happens all the time. But I was like, maybe I should like not do that anymore. So I was like, maybe listening to audiobooks will help me a bit. It will help me practice listening. So then I picked up this audiobook, My Sister the Serial Killer. And it's a very short audiobook. It's just like 4 hours long, 180 pages, I think. However, I did not know that most of the side characters, especially like the female side characters, they speak in very thick Nigerian accents. This is like me jumping into the fire. But I understood everything, except when they were speaking Nigerian. I don't speak that language. Is Nigerian a language? What language was they speaking? I don't know. But anyways, it was a fun time, except for like the plot and the story itself. Let me get into that. So My Sister the Serial Killer is about this girl. Her name is Kade. She has this beautiful sister. Her name's Ayola. Everyone loves Ayola. Ayola's the bee's knees. She's very stupid, and she's like a gold digger. Oh, one secret about Ayola. She's killed like all of her past boyfriends because they attacked her. Quote, quote, I know they didn't. And every time Ayola kills her boyfriend, who does she call first? The police? Pfft, no. She calls her big sister Kade. She's like, hey girl, it happened again. Get the bleach. And Kade, because she's the big protective big sister, she helps her little sister cover up these murders. And yeah, that's the book. Ayola learns no lessons. She goes on to move on to a new boyfriend. So yeah, she murdered boyfriend number 3. And Kade's like, oh my gosh, she murdered 3 people. That makes her a serial killer now. Oh my gosh. Well, what am I gonna do? It's my sister. I love her. But also, dead bodies. And I'm responsible for hiding all of them. But the biggest struggle in this book is that Kade is ugly. And it was actually kind of heartbreaking to read because Ayola, who has the brains of a maraca, just stones and rice rattling in her brain. What's in a maraca? Is it like beads? Is it like a beanbag? I want to crack open a maraca now. Whenever I think of maracas, I think of that plant thing from Breath of the Wild. He's so cute. Anyways, what the heck was I talking about? Oh yeah, Kade's ugly. You know, she's always in the shadow of her beautiful younger sister. Kade works at a hospital where she's in love with a doctor named Tade. Tade's very sweet, he's smart, he's humorous, and he's on like a friendly relationship with Kade. And Kade's like, oh, I like you. Well, Tade likes Ayola, and he's like, oh, she's gorgeous. I want to chase after her and throw money and jewelry and love at her. And Kade's like, please don't. I don't want to bury you two. She doesn't say that, of course. The book would have been over with if she'd said that right at the beginning. So she has to watch from the sidelines as her crazy sister and love of her life date right in front of her. Everyone was just teasing poor Kade throughout this book. Why can't you be like your sister? Why are you so ugly? It made me feel sad for her, but then I had to constantly remind myself that she's an accessory to multiple serial killer murders. And I still felt bad for her. Maybe I'm the bad person in this book. So the majority of this book is like Kade being torn between, should I help my sister kill more people or should I stop that from happening? I don't know. It was a very short book. There is 0 descriptions in this book. We get a little bit about what the girls look like, but as for the house, the hospital, trees, nothing. Like, you get none of that, which I kind of like in a thriller. It's very fast-paced, and if you tell me they're entering a house, I can imagine the house for myself. The one thing that I really don't like about this book is the ending. Like, I felt like nothing throughout this whole book was accomplished. That's my thoughts on the ending. Like, why is it even here? It literally started out at the same place it began. Like, it didn't do anything. And finally, my last book of the year was a thriller that I think is pretty popular. Well, first off, this is a book about high schoolers, and y'all know I hate high schoolers. They are like the constant thorn in my eyeballs. But this one did high schoolers right. Not painting them as stereotypical characters of, high school drama and crap. No, these people actually had personalities. Thank God. This book's called One of Us is Lying. I gave this a 5, even though I knew who the killer was from page 10, because I'm a genius. Well, first I was an idiot. Let me tell you what this book is about first, and then I'll explain how I'm an idiot. Let me write that note down real quick. Idiot to genius. I don't think I spelled genius right. One of Us is Lying is about 5 kids. Well, technically 4 because the 5th one dies like 20 pages into it. Not a spoiler. It's on the summary. We have Bronwyn. Love that name, by the way. She's the smart girl. Then we have Cooper. He's the jock. Then we have Nate, who in my mind looks like NF because his name is Nate. He's the drug-dealing scoundrel constantly in detention. Then we have Addie, who's the popular cheerleader type. Then the 5th guy is Simon. He's the real jerk. Simon runs this whole gossip blog, which spills the tea about students at their high school. Well, all these kids end up in detention, and Simon dies. And the police, they're starting to snoop around, and they're like, oh, it looks like all those 4 other kids have a motive and opportunity to kill Simon. We're gonna crack this nut open. And it was a hoot. Again, characters, fantastic. I love the writing style. I was invested in their lives and their success, even though I guessed who did it 10 pages in. Well, first, I returned this book to the library today, so I can't show you what my first theory was. So the first time I read this book, I only got 20 pages in. Then I just got distracted for 4 days. But during that first reading period, on the dust jacket, when you open the book, it says in bright red letters, if you pay attention, you might be able to guess what happened. Something like that. So I'm like, it's written in red, like blood. But then one of our main characters, their last name is Haha. That means red in Spanish. So I'm like, okay, it's them, because the book in red letters told me to pay attention, and your last name is Red. That was my theory. But then after those 4 days, and I got back to the book, and I'm like, oh, I don't really remember how this started. I went back to the beginning and reread, and then I kept reading, and it was pretty obvious who did it. It was not the red person. I'm sorry for doubting you. You ended up being my second favorite character. Just know I really like this book, but I want to talk about how I guessed who did it. So this is spoilers. Just skip ahead 30 seconds, please. And then I'll see you at the end of the video, okay? So on my second reread of the first 20 pages, Simon, I was rereading him and I was like, this dude is so theatrical. It has to be him. And I was right. But what I didn't guess, and this is still spoilers, so why are you here, was Jake's involvement in the whole thing. That was like the needed twist at the end, because I already knew who did it from the very beginning. And I knew it couldn't be any of our 4 main characters. We were in each of their point of views. And if it would have been one of them, that would have been a really bad book, because these characters were acting and thinking like they were perfectly innocent. So I knew what the thriller was, but there was an added twist, and I liked that. And I already have the sequel on hold at my library, and I'm excited to read that. So this is the end of the spoilers. Hello there, welcome back. And that was my month of reading. It was pretty nice. I actually had a 5-star read after I did my tier ranking video for the year. That's great. Just know I would have put it in like A tier. I would have put it there. So I had like 2 thrillers about why you should never trust your neighbors or have neighbors. 1 book about a very incompetent serial killer. Honestly, that girl was so dumb. If she didn't have her sister around, she would have been yeeted into jail a long time ago. I love saying yeeted. A pretty awful fantasy book that just did not understand how to explain things well. And then I had Murderous Breakfast Club. It was fantastic. I've never actually seen The Breakfast Club. I saw the victorious parody of The Breakfast Club. Does that count? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, stay ready, my friends. And remember, I'm always willing to discuss books with you, because I love you.